Hello and welcome to a new episode of New Game Plus COVID-19 edition, where we are all locked in our houses. We can't get out. Unfortunately, of course, the RMIT studios are also closed as a result, which means that you're stuck with this. It looks alright though. I mean, the blue, the purple light, and there's some weeb figures down there. Doesn't matter. Moral story is we do have a lot of great reviews and a lot of great content for you as always. It's a bit weeby though, because this time is normally Japanese Christmas. You got to remember. So. It's a bit weeby. Doesn't matter. Let's get through it together, though. The opening, I should say, is a shonen fighter rap with My Hero Academia and One Punch Man, as well as Jamie discussing Naruto. It gets a bit better on the weeb side, though. The next one is State of Sports Games, so we discuss what we want to see out of a new wave of sport games, what we really miss about sports games. And finally, we ended on the low-key weeb game, like super low-key weeb game, Animal Crossing, and that's with Megan as well. So lots of cool content. Hope you enjoy. But for now, something completely different.
So you know what I love? Video game music. Not only did the last decade have some great video games, but also some great video game music. So much so, we're looking to make a playlist of some of the best video game songs of the last decade. Now, I've polled everyone from New Game Plus for their picks, but we really need your help to round out the playlist and make it something special. So down below, we have a form ready for your submission, so we're just asking for a single track you really like. As long as the song came from a game released between January 1st, 2010 and December 31st, 2019, we are totally going to accept that. However, we do ask for no licensed music because we're looking for something that originated from a game. We're hoping to get the playlist out on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, or anything else you use to go ahead and stream music. Just let us know because we will totally make a playlist otherwise. We're hoping to get this playlist out in the next few weeks, so keep your eyes on our social media channels for the links. Thank you once again. It's a really cool thing we're trying to do, and we really look forward to your submissions.
So it's one of those things where this time of the year has always been known as Japanese Christmas, and unfortunately because of COVID and all of the silliness that goes on with that, there's still been a lot of weeb games come out, and some of them come out early, and some of them have come out in different days than you'd expect. But there's still time for your standard Namco anime tie-ins, and there's been two main ones that have come out recently: My Hero Academia, One Justice 2, and One Punch Man. I can't remember the tagline, but basically it's the two variants of mainstream anime games. One is the retelling of a certain tier of the story through with the game, and then like an additional, you just have like say multiplayer matches or whatever. And then the other one is the Xenoverse thing. You insert your OC, you become a character in the world, and you make you exist in the universe. So I figured it was best to discuss kind of the pros and cons of those with someone who's recently gone through all of the Naruto games, which filled very much into that first category. Jamie, thank you for joining me to
Hello.
discuss, I guess, Animu like tie-in games. I don't know, what are we calling this?
I mean, I guess it's kind of the way to call them because we don't really see a lot of any other types of these games. We see like I want to say nearly every major Shonen Jump franchise becomes one of these games. Like you've got Dragon Ball's probably the most famous one, but you also got One Piece, One Punch Man, My Hero Academia, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Naruto, obviously, and then there's things like Black Clover. I want to say Gintama sort of turned into one at one point. And then you've got obviously the kind of Shonen Jump crossover games, like you've got your Jump Forces and your J-Star Victory Versus. It's literally every Jump franchise is now just this one specific type of fighting game.
So you're either a tag fighter, which is kind of what My Hero Academia is, except you can't actually tag. You can only you can tag them, but they can only assist. So you only get the assist from, you don't get, it's not like Burning Blood, for example. And I would say that probably the two of the best ones of the anime tie-in games, Burning Blood, I still love Burning Blood. And I would say the first JoJo's was great. I really enjoyed the first JoJo's, even if it was broken, even if there were loops you could go into and stuff like that. But it seems like they are still stuck. There's not much they can do with anime. I guess obviously there's main factors to consider are the fact that you're dealing with a license, so you've got to be true to the the kind of the rights holder. They'll say to you, you can only go up to this point in the story. You can't do anything extra. And then realistically, what other type of game could you expect from one? I mean, Dragon Ball's got an interesting thing where Fighter Z has its own universe, but even then, they tried to rush that out the door and then kill off its community to bring out Jump Force. You know what I mean? It seems like they don't know what to do. And the only other type I can think of main three kind of anime tie-in game is the Musou game. And One Piece one comes out in 3 weeks, 2 weeks. So
it's already out.
Is it? Oh yeah, that's right. It came out early. That's right. Yeah. So which of those do you prefer the most? Which of those have you had the most fun with out of, I guess, of the three types of main anime tie-ins?
Honestly, I prefer Muso games because I'm just a kind of a fan of that particular style of genre, and because it tends to focus in on it's not only just a good game, but also they do a relatively good job of kind of retelling the story. It's not like the best way to experience. I know in the case of say One Piece or Fist of North Star or hell even Gundam, it's not like the best way to experience those, but they're still fun games. Like to me, a lot of those fighting games are just because I'll admit, just like yourself and a lot of the people on the team, I'm a bit of a snob when it comes to fighting games, and a lot of these shonen jump anime kind of arena fighting games are all kind of great in terms of like, hey, I'm new to this, so every one of these games has like universal setups, universal inputs, universal commands. Just the situation's a little different depending on the character. But to me, it's like there's only so much you can do with that. At least with the Muso stuff, it just feels like there's maybe a little bit more, and maybe in terms of the franchise, it kind of fits a little bit better. Like to me, there's kind of a manic energy to Pirate Warriors that I really like because that's kind of One Piece in a nutshell.
Well, it's got to be said that the One Piece games, obviously, you have the advantage of being, I guess, there's a lot of enemies on screen, so you can do these big battles that happen and stuff like that, and you can always just fill it with Marines. Worst comes, you fill it with random pirates, you fill it with random Marines, and it's fine, and then you just have Hawkeye or whoever show up. So One Piece was a good example. I didn't hate the Berserk one, but I felt that they didn't really capture the game as much, and I think that
I'm sorry, I forgot the Berserk one.
And so I think that is the like kind of the big, the kind of the problem with them is a lot of them are out there to make money. You sell 500,000, a million of them. They're cheap to make. You're usually either getting Spike Chunsoft or CyberConnect to make them. You know what I mean? Like people know how to make them. The engine's already there. The format's already there. You just pump them out. Sometimes they get that. Sometimes they go a different way. Like Fighter Z is just genuinely a good game. You know, there are good ones, but I don't know. It seems more and more it seems lazy, and I think the other problem as well is a lot of people have in their minds that there's a big crossover between anime and games, and I think the Japanese games are inherently different mindset to anime, like in general, even if they share obviously a lot of art styles and a lot of that kind of stuff. You know, I just think that transplanting an anime across is, dare I say, lazy? I don't know.
A little bit, like I guess in some ways it's just like, okay, you've got a lot of voice acting, you've got kind of a lot of kind of reference in terms of animation, but I guess kind of the way those games work for me is I think you need to make a spectacle out of it. Like one of the things I really like about Naruto is that they do a really good job of kind of retelling that story. Like I think I've talked about it in a previous episode. Like I've never really read much of the manga or watched much of the anime. Like most of my experience is playing Ultimate Ninja Storm, and to me that does a decent job of just retelling that story and making it kind of a big theatrical thing where they've got kind of cutaways, they've got kind of these amazingly beautiful supers that they can only really replicate if they're basing it off the anime, if that makes any sense.
That's probably the problem when it comes to, I don't know, how do I say it, when it comes to a lot of them. Is it just lazy? It just seems like My Hero Academia does a similar thing, right? So, for example, you have one My Hero Academia, it does like a little 30-second fucking PowerPoint of everything with sound bites over the top and occasional clips and stuff.
God,
it's not fully acted, fully done cutscenes. And similar to One Punch, where you'll show up to random things. You go, go to this guy, talk to that guy. You'll unlock this move. You talk to Silver Fang, and you'll get extra moves, all that kind of stuff. So like there's plenty of ways that the games just don't capitalize on or don't do a good enough job of it. And I get that not every game is going to have the budget or the everything behind it, but I don't know. It strikes me that the last few haven't been great. Pirate Warriors is probably the biggest one that I'm looking forward to, and I should probably play it at some point. Have you had much chance to play it?
Yeah, I've played it. I've beaten one of the arcs, and it's fine. But I like One Piece, and I know that story pretty much at this point. I know that story, so it's like I'm just trying to get to the new stuff that hasn't really been covered by previous games before. So,
well, you're actually ahead of me. So, like, because I guess that's the problem. The reason I don't want to play 4 is because I'm not up to date on the manga, and I'm pretty sure it's going to go at least past Mama. At least past Mama.
No, so that's the kind of the thing with Pirate Warriors 4 is that it goes like canon-wise, it goes up to Whole Cake Island, and then once it goes to Wano, it becomes the original story because Wano's still going.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Because it's got the anime problem. It's the anime to manga problem where it's like we're ahead of you now. How do we do this? And I guess that's one way to kind of fix that problem. Anyway, No.
I mean, that's also kind of the thing with Pirate Warriors 3, where it's like, hey, they got up to Dressrosa, but Dressrosa was in the middle of that arc, so they just couldn't had to awkwardly end the arc in the middle of it, which is like, okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm still not sold that these yearly pump out games are great, but that said, I'm still super keen for Pirate Warriors. So what do I know? Maybe I'm a hypocrite. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you for joining me. And I guess that is it for now. Go play Weeb games. I mean, I don't know what else there is to say. One of the things that's recently just kind of stuck out to me the more I see it is just how bland sports games have become. Like it's basically down to a lot of the simulations, and this does include racing games as well. Like you've got your Maddens, your FIFAs, your Pro Evos, and even all the racing games that used to be somewhat arcadey are going a little bit more realistic. And I'm not sure how I feel about it. I just don't think for the longest time there's been an arcade sports game that's really appealed to me. So I figured I'd bring on Jamie, who's probably, I would consider you our sports game editor, for what it's worth. You or Alice, for what it's worth. And I also brought Don on, who's also a big racing game fan as well. And I figured, am I missing something? Because the games that I see are usually, they're okay for the $15 you're paying for them.
Right.
But there's no more NBA jams. There's no more, even Red Card Soccer, Sega Soccer Slam.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's just kind of the way we're at the moment. Like, everything is a simulation, which isn't a bad thing. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's just like, yeah, I see it. Like, I would love to be able to play an arcade game or arcade sports game or racing game. It just feels like it can be a little looser. Like, I love Forza Horizon, but it's like, it's not quite the same thing. When I think of arcade racing games, I think of Burnout.
Yeah.
Like, I was going to raise Forza Horizon as probably the last bastion of the arcade game, but even then you have to actually care about braking lines in that game.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's very forgiving. It's like normal Forza, kind of, if you turn the sliders down a bit, basically. And that's the strength of their engine. If nothing else, that is the strength of the Forza engine, is that it's a lot of that just scaled down. And obviously, they're going for that festival vibe and all that kind of stuff. But, it's not the same as stuff like Blur. I don't think you could get a game like Blur nowadays. Like, the only games that do that are kart racing games, and they're usually like, you have had coffin dodges and stuff like that, which is fun. I'm not
gonna lie. Like, the last great kart racing game we got was the Crash Team Racing remake, and
Mario Kart 8's still pretty good.
Yeah, but then
Fast Racing Neo, whatever the Switch launch
yeah,
was.
that's true.
Fast Racing Neo's in that interesting spot where it's like, it's not arcadey enough to be Wipeout because I don't have weapons or anything, but it's genuinely punishing. Like the actual maintaining lines,
the Ikaruga power-up
all
system,
that kind of stuff. So even then, it still doesn't scratch that itch. And I mean, obviously, Burnout Paradise was recently came to new systems and all that. So you can get some, but you have to go to the classics.
Indeed, though, but like even with the developers that were on Burnout Paradise who have since moved on to the Dangerous X series, like Dangerous Driving.
Let's not talk about that stuff.
Like they've the lack of demand for those games, as well as their very budget production values, has kind of shown that just the market appetite isn't there anymore. Like even when you return to non-racing games and the arcade games that come out of that, like we talk about NBA Playground, we talk about Super Mega Baseball, those happened and then just fell very quickly because people just want to play Ultimate Team.
Yeah, that's kind of
the gamble.
It's kind of the problem. Like you look at all the major sports games. Like you look at FIFA, you look at NBA 2K, you look at Madden, thank you. Like all of them have that mode where it's you're just paying real money to get cards. It's just great, awesome. I don't want that.
And that was the worst thing because NHL, I want to say 14, maybe 15. NHL, they were the first one to bring in the play as a pro. So you played a character, you got drafted to a team. You could either be drafted straight to your favorite team, or you could follow the normal routes and play that way. And it was really unique at the time. It was really hey, this is pretty cool, blah, blah. And now they did that, but it's overwrought. Do you know what I mean? It's obviously NBA's made a thing of it where it's got actual cutscenes and real actors.
Yep,
that kind of
for the first couple of hours.
Yeah, no comment. But yeah, and it just seems like even that's kind of fallen by the wayside because FIFA Ultimate Team makes too much money.
Yeah, but I guess at this point it's sort of changing a little bit. I know Super Mega Baseball 3 just got announced for everything, which is great. It has crossplay, which is even better. But also, I think kind of the big news recently is that 2K signed a deal with the NFL to make NFL games again.
But it has to be arcadey.
It has to be non-simulation is the word they use. So what that means is completely nebulous.
Yeah.
Whether that's a mobile game, whether that's a small little thing like NBA Playgrounds.
Yeah.
It's going to be a casino. You just know it's going to be a casino.
Yeah, of course it's going to be a casino. Why wouldn't it be a casino?
As in, didn't NBA 2K 2020 have a literal casino in it?
It did. They made a trailer celebrating. I was looking at it, I'm like, Jesus Christ, guys, what are you doing? What are you actually doing?
Yeah, that is gross. And I think because that's the thing, I do, Sega Soccer Slam still holds up. Fuck, it's a fun game. I played it probably about 6 to 8 months ago.
even Red Card. You know what I mean? Like I have these. Maybe I'm over. I've got a bit of nostalgia goggles on them, but I've still got NBA Jam on my iPhone, like the one that the EA released about 6-7
And that's
years
still
ago.
backwards compatible on Xbox One.
And it works fantastically. It's still such a fun game, such a great game to play. And I miss it. I missed it. Like Playgrounds was nice, NBA Playground, but it just wasn't.
It's not the same. Like
Yeah.
it's not Jam. It's not Street.
Yeah.
It's just.
Oh God, NBA Street 2.
It's
See,
yeah.
like this is what I mean. I think you're right, Don. I think the market's moved on, and I think it's been dragged to that point a little bit. Whereas like it has become play your ultimate team. You know, like it will keep rolling for Messi.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
like play your ultimate team or become an esports champion, because every sports game has an esports push behind it, whether it be FIFA or even Formula One has an esports push behind it.
So I guess that's probably the one thing. Is there a particular arcade game you guys would love to see come back?
I would love to see an actual new NBA Street game.
Yeah.
Like I think it's been like it was the one good EA Sports big series.
Yeah.
I love to see like differentiate yourselves from 2K. That's your thing. Like don't make your NBA 2K killer. Make your differentiator.
I agree. I think
I've got two things I would want to see. I want to see Virtua Tennis.
Yeah.
Like we kind of get like AO Tennis kind of aspires for that
But it's a
level,
simulation.
But it's still a simulation
Yeah.
of like I just want to play what's called plays Boris, what's his face, or Pete Sampras. I want to play Pete Sampras again.
And just start diving all the time.
the other problem with that is like Mario Tennis sucked. So it's like
Let's not talk about that. The other thing I want to see is a Project Gotham Racing, a true proper
Yes.
20% simulation, 80% arcade racing game.
Yeah.
Give me my kudos, please.
Yeah. I know. Again, to me, like it really does. I'm not a big fan of soccer, but I love fake soccer games. Like a Sega Soccer Slam made for the new age would be great. You could even chuck in characters if you want. But when it's all said and done, like I am just NBA Jam. As much as I love NBA Street, NBA Jam is the OG. It's the original. I don't know. I think that's kind of what I want to see. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Well, we've got a new generation of consoles coming up.
Well, do we? Who knows? No E3. Anyway, thank you guys very much for joining me. And I don't know, maybe you guys should maybe send an email or something. Not that they listen. Like, go on Reddit and complain. No one will read it anyway, but you might as well feel better about yourself. I don't know. Where are my arcade titles? Where's NBA Jam?
So it is that time of the year. Finally, Animal Crossing has come out. We've been talking about it for months on the show. It is probably one of my favourite series that Nintendo makes. It's been one of my favourite games for a very long time. And we have... It's been an interesting experience. It's been out for about 2 weeks as we record. It's probably a bit less, maybe a bit less. But the main takeaway from it is that it is at its core an Animal Crossing game. It feels like an Animal Crossing game, and everything about it is an Animal Crossing game. And that is 100% why you may love or hate it depending on that sentence. Because realistically, the main thing with the game is that it's always been one of those great portable games. You play it for 10, 15 minutes, you go fish some stuff, you go do whatever. It's a great time killer. And that's still true, but that's kind of all it is. Like, it still has a lot of the same things about the game that I love, and the way I play it. If nothing else, the way I play it is exactly the same as I played the previous one. I'll be playing it for X amount of it, 15, 20 minutes or maybe an hour, put it down, play something else, do something else, come back in a couple hours, pick it up, play it for a little bit. So you basically do your dailies. It was one of the first games to do kind of dailies before anything. And because it runs on, obviously, the same clock as the rest of the world, it's a little bit more, it has more of an impact on your ability to do other stuff, and vice versa. Like, if you've got to do something or you're at work or whatever, you may not get to play it until X time, and you have to factor that into your playing, which in itself was always something unique about that game. And so, like I said, I love it, and I've been enjoying it a bunch, but it's not just about what I think of it. Maybe we should ask somebody else. So I decided to bring Megan on board to discuss it as well. Megan, thank you very much for joining me.
Hey, this is wild.
Yes,
recording from my house, like
fancy.
saving so much time.
Well, it's fancy in the sense that it's the opposite of RMIT, which is actually very fancy. So it
is.
should hopefully be working okay. We've all the gremlins should be out of the system by now. But I guess what are your first thoughts on the game? Like, what's your impressions of it so far?
I'm super excited to talk about the New Horizons release because I have been so pumped for it. The world was ready for this to come out. I was ready for this to come out. And now I guess there's so much that is the same, but there's so much that's different. And one thing I really think we should highlight first off the bat is the quality of life improvements. Not only am I able to sit on my couch and play the game on my Switch, but I can choose to play it on my 4K TV, which might not look like 4K, but it is just as good. And I guess the attention to detail in the like things like the ambience, the sound effects, like when I'm crunching all over the sand, but then all of a sudden I'm walking on grass, I can hear that audible difference. And what I'm a huge fan of is like things like when I'm watering my flowers and accidentally drip some water into the river next to it. The sound effects next like are so obvious and so crispy and beautiful. I just think it really plays up to that whole escapism and just like all the attention to detail.
And I say that's one thing, like you say, like it may not be a 4K game, but the one thing I've always given Nintendo credit for is their games scale very well. So let's say your game, like their game might be 4K. I mean, people who use the Dolphin emulation software will know this, that Mario Sunshine, even upscaled, still looks really good because their art styles lend themselves to look good at different kind of things. And so, like even though, like you say, Animal Crossing thing, the felt on Blather's feathers, the way the one thing the games have always been good for is audio escape. Though you mentioned it before, but I mean even the 3DS, if anything, the 3DS overperformed for it was always how good the audio was comparative to the video. Like that system was driven on the ability to plug in a set of headphones and just play it. And so they've carried that over really well into the new game. And you're absolutely right. I think that ambiance, that everything about it just works for the game. And it just makes it part of that experience.
So we are 10 days in, essentially, and I've only personally clocked about 50 hours, which is really exciting for me. And I know you've clocked way more than that.
Not way more, but more, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that like what they're making sure is that they're drip feeding the base content to the same, all the players at the same time. So we're kind of experiencing it together at the same pace, except for those people out there that like to time travel and like get all the money hacks and get everything early, which is no fun for anybody except for them. I suppose that I like the fact that it's building at a gradual pace, but for players like yourself, Jace, that pace isn't fast enough. But I do think they've added a lot of other things that do add gameplay and add to the base mechanics, like things like Nook Miles and being able to travel to Mystery Islands.
So that was probably the one thing I was going to bring up in that exact vein, because I think you're right. I think people have been time traveling and back and forth and all that kind of stuff. They're able to go ahead to certain points, but because of the content is still being drip fed, there's no real point to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, unless you wanted a specific thing. Like, people try and use it to manipulate the stock market and stuff, like the turnips and stuff.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Don't even talk about that. I lost a lot of progress and just cried a little bit.
Yeah, so, like, they try and do that kind of stuff. And, like, that's always been an element of the game. But because of the nature of how they're releasing the content, they're kind of restricted from doing that. And I traded a Nook Miles ticket for the onsen, like the hot spring. I don't regret
I've got that too.
Yeah, I don't regret it, but like
No.
that's what I'm saying. Like, it's those things where it does that, and then like, and to me, the one thing as well is, you mentioned it previously, and a lot of people have their ways of kind of showing that, but it's like the weebiest game that's a low-key weeb game. Like most of the stuff you can get at the moment is all Japanese stuff. They know who the game's aimed
It's
at.
a homage to Japan culture.
Oh, yeah,
Absolutely.
and it's like, and so like, there's obviously people have made full little Japanese towns and stuff like that, like the roads.
Yeah, I downloaded someone's kimono style for my fashion outfits
Yeah.
personally, so I'm here for it.
Yeah, so I think you're right. I think combined with the lack of content coming out at the moment, the goddamn Easter thing, which everything's a goddamn egg at the moment, like everything you turn over is an egg. I think you're right. I think the way they're drip feeding the content is something they can do on Switch they couldn't previously do. It's not bad. It's just it kind of slows your roll a little bit, and people are going to have a different viewpoint on that depending.
I agree. I think the future of Animal Crossing New Horizons really will stem from its live service content. And you just talked about the Easter stuff then. We're seeing that it's like a limited time event, which players can jump in and jump out of whenever they want to. But then it keeps people coming back for more and gives an excuse for Nintendo to bring out really cool limited items. But in my opinion, that kind of stuff really makes me get fear of missing out, that FOMO feeling of like, wait, I need to come back and check this out. Like, how do I get my hands on that? And I don't want to miss out. Like, how much do I have to pay? Like, I think the fact there are no microtransactions with that really cool live event content is even more exciting. And the fact there's so much more to come. And I think we'll be coming back for years to come with this.
Coming from Pocket Camp, where everything costs you tickets, to nothing costs you tickets, is a bit of anyway. Look, thank you, Megan. Thank you for your time. I'm sure I'll see you around the islands. What fruit did you get?
Hey, I got cherries. What about you?
No, I'm oranges. I'm boring like that. So anyway, I'll see you around on the islands, no doubt. Thank you for your time, Megan.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it.
Well, that is the end of another episode. We hope to see you around the traps or around your village or island. You never know where we might see you next, but you can see us at newgameplus.tv. Also check out New Game Plus TV, one word, at Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, all those places that you usually find our content. We'll keep making content for all this craziness, and if anything, gives us a good chance to do a little bit more stuff than we'd like to do. So we will see you all, guys, next week.